We, as human nature, we tell stories. That's how we learn. So it's really important to tell those personal stories so that everybody else can see themselves in the picture. So I'm a storyteller. I'm actually a journalist by background and a photographer and photojournalist. And we have unfolding right now really the biggest story on the planet. And that's this intersection, or really competition, between water, food, and energy. And so, like any story, you have heroes, victims, villains. You have major political power plays. You have resource constraints. You have people doing absolutely amazing things to help making the world a better place. So when you go into the field, like I do so often, you see some of the worst things that our planet and humanity has to offer, but then you also see some of the most inspiring things. In the Tehuacan Valley of Mexico, for example, they're having serious water issues. So their groundwater was drying up when we were there, their corn crop was failing, and yet one of the local women, one of the local just matriarchs of the community said, "Why are we planting corn? Why don't we plant another grain? Why don't we plant amaranth?" And so a much more drought-resistant grain. So a lot of the solutions that we're finding to these global challenges are actually already embedded in our culture. We kind of just have to listen to ourselves and each other much better. And so they built a whole new economy around amaranth. And so they actually now make cookies that are sold in Mexico City called quali, which means quality, made from a grain that's much more drought-resistant. So at Circle Blue, we tell these stories, the stories of this global freshwater crisis that's happening now. We really try to make it personal and relevant. But we also make it really strategic, because behind every story there's also a mountain of data. So not only are we reaching, say, the high school student or the graduate student or the researcher or the media leader with these stories, we're actually swinging it back around. Now, one of our secrets is the convening part. So yes, we do run in a circle. So for DLD, I actually describe it as everyone wearing bright tennis shoes. I haven't seen as many this year, but it's a really creative crowd. And to tackle these global issues, I need to be recharged. So I'm in the field a lot. I'm in the slums. I'm in very poor areas. I'm seeing droughts and just seeing these really, really hard Scrabble challenges. And they're usually attacked from a more academic perspective. And more academic, more slow, more methodical. And so I need that creative energy that comes from DLD, the creative energy of technology, of overcoming great barriers and obstacles of people starting companies or personal stories to really drive us forward. Well, what really keeps me inspired and getting out of bed in the morning is at the core of every one of these stories, like the story in Mexico or the story in Mongolia, there are heroes out there. So it's not a story of just gloom and doom. I mean, there's plenty of gloom and doom to go around, but whether it's a cyclone, whether it's a drought, whether it's a flood, there are always heroes that are emerging. And what's interesting is technology, and say at DLD and other, that surfaces a lot of cool technology for identifying who those heroes are in a hurry as they rise to the surface and kind of start forming their own social networks, say after a major system shock.